Morena tātou. Oh gosh.
Quiet, please.
Talking food.
Don't talk to me about food at the moment. Waiki dick. Good morning, everyone. We'll make a start. Tama, of course, has been unwell on and off and has his wife, so he's occasionally not been able to get here when he intended to. But our thoughts go out to him because he is recovering, and all the best for what he's going through at the moment. So I'm going to invite Councillor Malena this morning to give us an opening karakia, please. And just in good notice, I'm going to ask Councillor Ryan to close the meeting this afternoon. Thank you.
You mean before lunch? Close the meeting before lunch?
Well, yeah. Yeah. Whenever it occurs.
I second that.
Well, let's get going then. I rangi a tāhua, homai te māramatanga me te kaha ki te whai I ngā mahi hei painga mo tō tātou taone me tō tātou rohe hoki. Mauri ora kia tātou.
Oh, thank you.
I just asked just to give us some clarity and some strength to make great decisions for our people. Morena.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. The agenda is confirmed. I've received, and are there any apologies?
Councillor Taylor.
Councillor Taylor, he's in Adelaide having a great time. Wish I was there. So we'll move that the apology be accepted.
Possibly early departure, future-proof, if we're still going at 3.
Oh, I'm going to be at future-proof. We're not going to be going at 3, but I'll take your point. All right. Move that the apology, and we'll put a late apology in if we need to, Ryan, be accepted. Move me, seconded, Councillor Donovan, all in favour, say aye. The confirmation of the minutes is as is. I move that it is so. Andrew Bidder, you second. All in favour? Aye. And that brings us on to a public forum, of which there clearly isn't, which is good for today. And on to item 5. Which is a senior government. I was
just going to say, can we do 5, 6, 7 and 8?
Yeah, we could probably. So 5, 6, 7 and 8, which are all confirmation of minutes. It is, yep. And just in case, one minute, Anna, just in case, it's really up to you. It's your due diligence to read them prior to the meetings and note anything so you can quickly get through it. Otherwise, can descend into a time waster. And Anna, was that a question or a seconder? Brilliant. Kapai. It's been moved, it's been seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Chair's report. It's not really going to say very much about the report. It's pretty straightforward. You can see that finally, and Angela may wish to talk to this, or two things I will report on. Firstly, Angela and Councillor Van Oosten, you can see that they have finally been conferred, I'm suggesting them as the representatives for the Waikato Regional Transport Committee, and a lot of the work in setting that up was done between the parties. So Angela can talk more on that. And the only other thing I want to talk about is the recent cyclone Gabrielle and what our council's doing. You know that in the Adopt a Council fundraiser for Auckland, we were paired with Auckland, and we've been supported in a very lovely way by Globox with free digital response. I've put out some things on Facebook, I think. I'm not sure how widely that's been shared at this point, but we're at the point now where, and we won't know how much we raise because it goes to the Auckland Mayor's Mayoral Fund bank account, and the money is directly, we've been assured by email, Lance, that the money will not be going to the Auckland City Council. It will be going through the vested charities to reach the people who've lost their homes and other things. So that gives me great confidence in terms of where it will end. I think it's up to us to do a bit more, to try and reach a bit more into people who can be generous. And so I'm thinking about some ideas around that. There is the... so Kelly's working on a number of ideas around how we could do some things, engage with the public, potentially in a fun way, and get a little bit more funding. I'm even going to talk to Lance about the possibility of having a donation box at our neighbourhood event on the weekend for small amounts of money, because every bit counts, right? So things like that, if we can get some donation boxes into our libraries and things. In addition, we need to do things, some bigger scale things, so we're working through some ideas, because I do think we need to be genuine in what we try to do. What I was going to test here, and there isn't a recommendation to it because it slipped through the net, but in previous times of emergency, mayors from all around the country, their councils themselves will make a start-up donation to a fund. As you will be aware, we did with Tonga, and we also did a couple of thousand to Ukraine. So it's not a new idea. And I would like to propose that we put, and it's a nominal amount, but see how you feel about it. I would like to propose that we, as a council, donate $5,000 to the Auckland fund. We could do more than that, we could do less than that. But if I would be interested on your feedback on that. The second event that I am trying to get behind and support is a couple of, you would have seen Al Brown on TV talking about a project he's got, cooking up a storm, getting restaurants to have a particular night, cooking up a meal and, you know, making some profit off that. Now, I can tell you there are 2 cafes in Hamilton that have put their hand up for them. I asked around through hospitality and said, you know, was anybody going to do this? Because I'll get in behind you. Cucina, which is a cafe we all love, and Times Square are 2 so far, potentially with Banh Mi to come on, or who knows. So that's Julia Clark's working on that, Lance. So I'm getting Kelly in contact with Julia, who works through the hospitality sector, to see how we can pick up that and get behind it, whether we all attend one of those events, which will be the price of the meal plus a donation, whether we invite some business colleagues or whatever we might do. So those are the kind of 3 arrows I have at the moment. Donation boxes, something from us, and getting behind this nationwide campaign, which on it looks like a really good one. Any questions on that or comments on that? I would like to propose in the recommendation, and it's a little unusual to do it here, I do agree, that we do make a contribution of $5,000 towards the mayoral fund. I wonder if anybody would second me on that. Councillor Maxine, thank you. Pauli, thank you. Is there anybody who feels, ask any questions or go into debate, anybody feel concerned?
Just a question of process. In the past, we used to have, in the overall budget, a mayoral office fund that this sort of thing could come out of. Do we still have that?
It's the mayoral office budget, apart from salaries, is pretty skinny. We did skinny it down. Look, I couldn't actually tell you, Councillor Ewan, exactly if there's a sum there, but maybe I could text Lou and she might be able to tell me.
Yes.
Fund.
Yeah.
Most mayors around the country have it sporadically, actually.
Yeah, and we would always put funds,
So
because I know
we
Redmond
could tag this to
that.
I don't
Yeah.
think for some time we've had a line item like
No.
that in the budget, and I think
No, Lou's just said there isn't.
so I don't know when that decision was made. It wasn't made by me, but it wasn't there when Tonga, so we had to look somewhere else for them.
I mean, Mayor Paula, I wonder if this is something that you might want to discuss at an LTP time or at an annual plan time. That would enable you and your discretion, if you had a budget line, to do that. But I accept in this ad hoc fashion we're having to respond, and I accept that. But I'm mindful that, you know, there's probably a better way of doing it. But I mean, I'm going to support you, but we really should.
I'll note it down and then we can have that discussion.
Have a more meaningful structure about it.
That was part of the reason at the last council meetings we were still doing discovery as to whether, but we decided that between what is in my budget for things like events and so on, visiting events to ambassadors and things like that, the sort of thing we did with the Swedish office, we could probably find that, and if not, Lance can find some budget and we can do it together. We're lucky I didn't suggest 10. Anyway, Any other concerns or any questions of me? And Angela, do you want to talk about the transport just as?
Add to that, it was a line item every annual plan that was $10,000, and when it for the Mayoral Relief Fund, and when it wasn't spent, it was just put back into the pot. But it just made situations like this easier. And most mayors around the country have a slightly different quantums. Yeah. Yeah. So
Failing that is we could, but it isn't in this year's annual plan, we could make a motion to restore the Mayor's Disaster Fund.
Yeah.
And from that, pay a 5,000 donation, but that brings it forward before the LTP, so it makes it even a little bit more, something gives, you know.
Well, I think you're talking about this financial year, which isn't the annual
Yeah.
plan that we're talking about at the moment, which is 23-24, so it'll have to
it's
come
come
out of
out
this
of
year's
this,
budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which are quite lean. But
So as long as you take $5,000 off CE savings, I'll be happy.
Yep, all right, we can do that. Just in terms of the Regional Transport Committee, just for possibly more for new members around the table, this is a joint committee with all councils in our Waikato region, and we have one vote around the table. It's statutorily required through government legislation to have a regional transport committee, and its primary focus is to develop the, gosh, which one is this one called? The NLTP, Regional RLN something, Regional Land Transport Plan, which has a plan, a national government plan over the top of it. So it's very high level stuff, but it does also, running alongside that, have Waka Kotahi, who help all of this council, this group, to develop a funding package, and then we fight it out through those meetings on where we want Hamilton projects on that list and funded, and we are in a contest with regional, the other regional councils and members that sit on here for their projects as well. So we've already been indicated by government and Waka Kotahi that walking and cycling and PT will be at the top of the list for this next round. So that's encouraging to hear. But again, that may have a slight shift given the catastrophic weather events we've had. So we will report back through my committee on a fairly regular basis on what's happening with that. So that's it. Thank you.
questions on that? Sarah has a question. Hi, Sarah. No, she doesn't.
Sorry, no, I thought you were in debate. I don't have a question.
Okay, thank you. We're just about to go into debate. So there's an additional recommendation that council approves the 5,000 donation to the Auckland Adopt a Council appeal. Let me just see that up there, so just to make sure that everybody has I approved it as. All right, I've moved, Councillor Van Oosten has seconded. Is there any debate?
Yeah, just very briefly. Look, I support your report. I caution the fact that we hadn't, and I take responsibility for this as well, that we hadn't actually re-established the Mayoral Relief Fund, because I think it provides much better discipline if, as an organisation, we're very clear that says, yes, we're going to have a relief fund, and my recollection is the relief fund has always been at the Mayor's discretion. So as governors, we allocate the quantum, and then the Mayor, in his or her role, then allocates the allocation. And it can be done immediately and instantaneously, which is what Redmond had done in the past. But it also forms a real clear discipline, because then the Mayor knows what the quantum is, and they can then decide how they allocate it. So I will support this today, but I will also support, as part of an annual plan discussion, the re-establishment of the fund. We can have a debate whether it's new spend or we reallocate spend, but I support that there needs to be some quantum in the fund. And we must remind and celebrate the fact that this is the ratepayers' fund. This is the ratepayer being asked and delegating the mayor to make these extraordinary payments in response to a crisis. And the mayor will, execute the duty carefully because that's the appropriate process. And so I look forward to that coming up. But meanwhile, I'll support it, noting the financial challenges this council has, but accepting that this is an extraordinary situation.
Thank you. Any other debate, Councillor Van Oosten?
Yeah, look, just a thank you, Mayor Paula, for raising this. I think we can all agree and look around Hamilton and be very grateful that we have been spared the worst of these weather events. We had a minor disruption, being unable to use river paths and some trees down. So we do understand some of the effects that this has. But we just need to look to our cousins in the north to be able to see the real devastation that's happened to them. Followed, of course, by Cyclone Gabrielle and events that happened there and can sometimes overtake the ones that happened in the weeks before. And so I was really heartened to see that we were paired with Auckland through this process, because it really helps us to be able to identify with partners who we have a great deal of in common and some shared interests with, and so good to be able to support them in that way. I acknowledge all that Councillor Ewan has said with regard to the discipline and the way that we might want to future fund this, but in the absence of that fund, I think this is a great opportunity for us to recognise that special relationship we have with Auckland, and to be able to, in the very smallest of ways, make a contribution and acknowledge the difficulties that those people are in. And our residents, I am sure, would support every part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I should note, when we wrote to, I texted and spoke to Mayor Brown, but also wrote to Mayor Brown and said that we are your adopter city. I did get a very nice letter back from his office saying how grateful they were for both the staff that we've been providing, the staff resource that we've been providing, which went up very quickly, and the efforts that we're going to make to help the people of Auckland. So I was satisfied with that, and I agree with the comments of Ewan and Maxine in terms of having a more straightforward way of dealing with these things going forward, because there, but the grace of God, goes Hamilton, in terms of if that storm had been 4 more degrees over, what the effects of that may have been on some of our residents in some of the areas that we talked about, in fact, yesterday. So, yep. Any other questions? Sarah, did you have? No, she's gone. Okay. We'll go to the vote on the board, please.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your support. Now it brings us to item 10, which is Callard Place, and it's about an encumbrance, a long-standing encumbrance. Shouldn't be a lot of time on this report. Fairly straightforward report. Do you need to make any particular comments?
No, I'd simply say that the planning regime the encumbrance made sense in 2000. It doesn't make sense now.
Anybody got any questions? But I can't see any discussion. Oh, Moko has a question. Yeah.
I note that Te Papa Tawhai was engaged in 2000 to discuss the encumbrance matter being put on. Do we need to discuss the matter with them now to take it off?
No, that would have been in context of the reserve revocation that took place at that time. So their comments were sought around that Reserves Act component.
been moved by councillor Donovan. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bidder. Any debate? We'll go to the vote. I think I've voted.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. Which now brings us on to the review of our standing orders. This should take no time whatsoever. Moved by Deputy Mayor Angela, I'll second, unless somebody else has got a burning desire to do so. So, in terms of this, it's fairly straightforward. Does anybody want to talk to it? Are you going to talk to it, Amy, in any way? No?
Happy
So-
to take it as read.
Happy to take it as read. You can see that the changes are actually very minimal. We have had some general discussion about time of debate and a few things that we've been trying out. And I think they've been working really well. Does anybody feel disadvantaged by what we've been doing lately? Let us know. Any questions or concerns? Deputy Mayor.
Question, Amy, I'm just on page 105 on 13.5, and first of all, thank you for taking, I'm sure you probably didn't get a lot of feedback from elected members because it's really super clear that you've listened to our whinges and gripes, particularly in the last term about a couple of the sticking points, so thanks for doing that. Just on recording apologies, 13.5, we've started that new practice of if an elected member has to miss a formal meeting because of council business. Can we add that in here so
Absolutely.
that it will always be a function of a standing order?
Below that.
What's that, sorry?
We'll add a note below that. We'll
Okay,
reference
yeah,
it,
yeah.
That it's for the purposes of council business will be recorded within the minutes.
Great, that'll be awesome, thank you. And my only other one, just a question for clarification, I guess 106. And this is around members attending by audio-visual link. And of course, with the infrastructure meeting the other day, and we know we can't change this because that's government legislation to require a physical quorum, it doesn't give allowance really for under 14.1 the right to attend by audio-visual link. It's quite specific in the reasons why, and I don't think that's what our practice actually is, right? Because it says due to an emergency, unwell, or basically physically impossible to be here. So I guess how, it also says you require the chief executive or the chairperson needs to be given at least 2 working days. I know that wouldn't work with sick, but I guess what I'm asking for is can we reflect in there the practice that sometimes it's just convenient for an elected member for whatever reason, childcare, something's going on at home, they might not be sick, they might not be, physically
paragraph do you
unable to get here.
What paragraph are you looking at?
We're under 14.1. It's very, if we applied that, it's very restrictive. And sometimes, when an elected member is going to different meetings around the city, it's just easier to zoom in from that particular location, even though probably it's not physically impossible. So it feels a little restrictive. And given it's 2023, we've embraced this technology. I don't want us to be...
What if we went and had a D that is as simple as or at the discretion of the chair, purely from the point of view of quorum?
Hang on, got you.
Because this only comes into a standing, if we didn't have quorum, then the chair might beg you.
And I think that's not, I saw Councillor Wilson Bristol, and I think I will know why. That's not, the chair can't then just go, no, it doesn't suit me. It's just for the communication of, oh gosh, can you get in here because we are going to struggle with a physical quorum. So I'm just wanting to really make sure we keep the adoption of this technology best practice because we've been using it really well. And sorry, Ewan. And certainly as a chair,
You'll have to wait, Ewan.
I'd
You
never
haven't
say, no, you can't. I just wouldn't. So it's very strongly worded if
It
we
is
stick to
incredibly
standing
strongly worded.
orders like that.
Okay, I know there's a couple of people who want to speak to this, and Maxine's next.
Or in
One-
consultation with the chair rather than
Consultation
in,
of the chair?
yeah.
Let's hear what everyone has
bit
to think on
softer.
it, and then let's see if we land on a common view about this. But I think we clearly hear the intent, Angela. I think
yeah.
it's a good intent.
Yeah.
We want to make it, you know, relevant,
positive
but we do
tool.
want to drive to quorum because we've actually begun to have often issues about quorum. Maxine.
Mine's a different point, so perhaps Councillor Wilson's busting to go.
Thanks, Councillor Maxine. My question is on this exact point. So if you're happy, my question is, I mean, currently the way that this is worded, it's incredibly restrictive. And in fact, here's the obscene irony in what it is worded. Currently, my good council colleague Sarah would not actually qualify under any of these conditions. How perverse is that? And to think that a member would have to ask the chair's permission
Yeah, I think
is
I get you.
outrageous.
It's
So-
loosely encapsulated
So,
in A. isn't
so I guess my response is in the context that very capable governance people are suggesting a way forward, which I think is too administrative. I think requesting a chair's approval is not workable. I understand the motivation, because the motivation is that we're concerned about physical quorum. And welcome to my world, having been chair of a committee that wasn't as esteemed as my good colleague Angela in the past, where we physically had to stop meetings. It's nice that we're now occasionally seeing it in the higher committees, and I'm glad that we're now having a meaningful discussion to fix it. But my point is this. What legal piece of legislation can you refer to me that actually requires the quorum to be as high as the quorum currently is? Is there some piece of legislation that requires us to have a quorum of 8? That's the Local Government Act? Okay, so that's how we've landed on each of the quorums?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only challenge is trying to strike that balance between giving elected members the flexibility that technology does give you versus everyone being able to make sure that we've got enough bodies in the chamber to keep business going. So it's just trying to find the balance where we can make that work.
So what you're hearing, Mesh, if I hear from you and rightly, and I agree, is where A looks like it's quite permissive, it seems, depending on how you read it, it isn't. Because when I read that, I thought where a member is at a place that makes it, it doesn't quite pick up the Sarah situation where actually when you're nursing a child, it is a little impractical, especially when they're very new.
Incredibly.
You know, to come in, and yet Sarah's been one of the most in attendance, despite. So, so something about that. Can we think about that right now while we're taking the rest of the feedback, how that might be?
So just, I guess I'm foreshadowing, if governance can't come up with the way, I'm foreshadowing an amendment that basically says, for any reason that an elected member deems fit, because we shouldn't restrict this technology, accepting that elected members have to understand that if 5 or 6 of us choose to do it, there is a ramification. But the alternative is a restrictive nature where we're all having to jump through hoops. It just seems a real inconsistent.
I've got some comments on my own later, but I'll take the rest. Councillor Van Oosten.
Yeah, thank you. Just on that point, I note the chairperson may, it doesn't say that they would. But on my question was with regard to page 76, Amy, and it states in there that 75% of members present to adopt. We're a council of 15. Divided by 75% equals 11.25 members. At what number would 75 be in your mind reached?
We're not allowed to cut an elected member in half or a
No.
percentage, so we have to go to the full elected member.
Thank you.
And it is the ones that are in attendance today. So we have
14
14.
times 75% equals.
We're going to need.
Right.
What? We're going to need what?
Yeah, no.
No, this is for an adoption, and we've got that here.
We
We've got
have
the
that.
numbers here.
Yeah, but we have to have 75% of those
Of
people.
members
Oh,
present.
Members
Yeah.
present.
Members
yeah.
present.
Yes,
Present,
yes.
yes.
And so 75% of 14 is how many?
No, 75% of the members in here today, Max. Not of 40.
But have to agree, right?
Yeah,
Have to be
yes.
in agreement. Yes.
But that's not unusual.
No, I'm not saying that it is, but what I'm saying is,
How many?
should there be people who are dissenting?
It's 10 councillors plus Ryan. The figure's 10 and a half.
Thank you.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Oh, you'll keep. We got the CE review later.
You asked me to be humorous this time.
Not that humorous.
And Maxine is especially laughing because she's thinking, oh, that's could have been me.
That's 10 and a half, yeah, 11.
10 and a half.
11,
But we
Yeah.
round
Yeah.
up, it's 11.
thank you. Thank you, that's all.
All right, where are we going with this? Councillor Hutt, please.
Just on the note about where a member is unwell, I certainly appreciate that my colleagues around the table this term are very understanding and very share my passion for disability rights. But I just want to acknowledge that for some of us, unwell is a more constant than well, and just that I have faith that this council would apply that with empathy, but just want to acknowledge in a different room that could be applied differently. So just want to acknowledge that.
That's a good point, Mish, because that doesn't refer to disabilities that may come and go over time. But I guess every time you feel unwell, it's captured, you would like to hope. Food for thought there as well. Can I just say, I think I'm next, a couple of things. This whole area gets very complex. I am always disappointed when there's not a quorum. We're paid to do the job, we're assigned to committees. If everyone was communicating, this sounds going to be a bit like a telling off session, apologies in advance. But how we can help in this position is to let people know when we are or are not coming to things, so that chairs can plan ahead to gather their quorum before they're sitting in the room on the phone trying to say who can come in. And I actually really appreciated the other day when Sarah came in, because I was at home unwell, trying to keep my germs to myself. And otherwise I would have upped and come in, but she came in. She left babies and came in. And I'm grateful to her for that, to get the meeting finished now. Otherwise you would have had to adjourn it. And that would have put in another complexity with councillors having to reschedule that meeting or slide it into someone else's meeting as happens. Yeah, exactly. The interesting thing I find is that even though because we're self-employed, we never have to give permission for private leave. And I'm not saying you should give the permission on the one extent, but we don't even need to tell anyone that we'll be out of the office for a period of time. And I'm not saying we should be telling everyone where we are, but we don't even have to say, you know, look, I won't be in the office for any in-person meetings for the next week, but I'll be zooming in for X, Y, and Z. That kind of level of clarity helps. But if you disappear, which of course you're entitled to because you're self-employed, and nobody knows whether you're coming in, you're going out, whether you're even in the same country, that makes it difficult. But I have to note that, and the ability to work is not contingent with necessarily being here, because we've had a number of members, I'm not going to name anyone, who have worked very well, extremely often from a Zoom platform. So where my question sits is regards to and I support what my colleagues have said about making it clearer. of the reasons you might not be in the room. I also support Angela's comments around making it clear that if you're away, it might be on council business or private business or unwell. Those are the three kind of, unwell being broadly unwell kind of thing. Those are the three categories, in my view, that have always mattered, and that's how the regional council do manage theirs. What I was going to say about the technology is, though, the technology, it just makes me laugh when I read this. Everyone participating in the meeting can hear each other. Sarah, can you attest to that being true? Yeah, she's smiling. She knows it's not true. And I could barely hear some of the debate. And another thing is that when you are talking and we've got this not very good microphone set up, if somebody starts a side conversation, you can hear that just about as clearly as the main conversation. It's really hard. So that part, Lance, I guess, comes back to our technological needs. And I know you can't fix them tomorrow, and I know there's some budget about this chamber, and I know we had a little walk through the building yesterday. But even in that other room, the IT is not brilliant. Let's be honest about it. It's just not brilliant. And we're forever going, with those little round flying saucers, you just do not get good sound. You don't. And so that makes that really hard to give effect to right now. That's my point. I'm not sure what I want you to do about it, but I think if you have it in here, it's a little bit meaningless at the moment until it really is the case. Was that a bit grumpy? It was a bit grumpy, wasn't it? It was a bit grumpy. Okay, it was grumpy. All right, fair enough. Okay, sometimes you got to bring it out.
Point noted.
Thank you. All right, any other further, so have we got somewhere with 4.1 in terms of an additional criteria for attending or not attending by audiovisual? Have you?
Just say some examples of situations, and then
Well,
it leaves it
doesn't.
open.
It says can be given include, doesn't say it must be those, it doesn't, but if we want to be clearer about being a family friendly, how might we tackle that one? Have you got some words?
I've got many different words that could be in there, but I want to really put it to the chamber of what you would prefer it actually to state.
I'm prepared to give a try, and
Cool.
Deputy Mayor may also add, just in regards to the conditions of attending by audio-visual link. I think asking the Chair's permission is cumbersome and not appropriate. I think an elected member should advise governance of their intention to attend meeting by audio-visual link. And I don't disagree that at least 2 days in advance, that at least enables governance to determine the likelihood of the loss of physical quorum. The last thing chairs want to be doing is trying to coordinate on the back of the envelope who's attending the meeting. Because I often get colleagues saying, oh, I'm sorry, I won't be able to attend. And I'm going, well, I don't have optics on everybody else who said they can't attend. The one point of truth is governance. They track that. So I don't think it needs to be the chair. And I think we need to have a D that says, for any reason, an elected member chooses to attend remotely. Because otherwise, I mean, we've been doing this so well for the last 3 years. And in fact, for a lot of the time, governance have been encouraging us to attend visually. And
what if we simply took out the examples of situations where...
yeah, actually, that's even smarter. Yeah.
And just change that, the chairperson make it approval.
Why don't we just...
To more, for a member to attend a meeting by audio-visual, it's generally for a reason and it will be advised to governance.
So can I just work that through? So, Deputy Mayor, the example would have been for your meeting a few days ago. You would have then had 5 or 6 different emails from elected members saying that they intended, so you would have received that, intending to... Oh, okay, so it's not going to the chairperson.
No, and then on the run sheet, it usually says now when we get that information, the governance team will put so-and-so
Great.
by Zoom. That's
Excellent.
perfect. So it's not, doesn't create that chaos for the chair right before a meeting.
Yeah.
Because we've got all the balls up in the air as it is.
Right, so just to be clear, so
Yeah.
the chairperson of a committee isn't the one giving approval?
No.
It's not a request for approval, we're advising governance that we intend to join by audio-visual link.
I think the communication is key here. Standing orders are only as good as the team that keeps to them. And I think you're right, Ewan. The reasons for not attending, and I have to say, sometimes when you're unwell, like Andrew and I have been recently, it's just overnight. That's the way it is. You can't know about it, so you won't ring up in the morning and go sorry. That's an exception.
Yeah.
You were thinking about people like Sarah, but looking, childcare is important, but then again, children get sick sometimes, and that comes up. Actually, ageing parents also get sick sometimes, and you have to be available. So things happen. I think the key here is the policy should focus on your responsibility to let governance know what you're doing and whether you're in person or not in person.
Correct.
Because then someone can get on the phone and say, is there any way you can get in? We won't have a quorum. And it could be something that you can change, or it could be something that you can't change because you say, no, I'm down with the flu, I'm not able to. But at least we've got some mechanisms. So I support something like that, and I would like, can we approve the code of conduct holding aside this paragraph for you guys to get the wording
You mean
right?
standing orders?
Standing orders.
Okay,
Sorry,
otherwise we're
standing
trying
orders,
to get,
that's what I meant.
we're
I've
trying
just
to get
bring-
Amy to do it on the fly.
Oh,
Popped
there
up.
it is.
Sorry, I've
Where possible,
Mish
a
has
member
sent
will
me-
give governance 2 working days' notice and intend to...
I meant standing orders. Brain drain.
So that becomes the point where it's the request to attend by audiovisual link?
Yeah, so I've
rather than the
taken out the
conditions of attending?
That's
Yeah.
practically gone,
Yeah.
and it says a member may attend a meeting by audio-visual link.
Yep.
Either generally or for a specific meeting, and then to attend.
That's good.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Good work,
Yeah.
Amy.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Mish.
Good work, Mish.
I like it. I think we could be stronger, and because you've got the where possible and at least 2 working days. At least 2 working days is quite definitive. Where possible softens that out.
Yeah.
I know illness, but
Yeah.
given when do the notices for meetings come out? They come out quite a bit before. So if
Well,
you were,
should this go through,
5.
that'll be
It'll be
5 days
5
prior
days.
to the meeting.
so
it's
at that point you ought to have a good. If you're not unwell or someone's not going to become unwell, other than that, you should have a good understanding of whether you're on holiday, on a business course or whatever by 5 days. So I think 2 days is very generous and puts a lot of pressure on people to try and, Ewan, Amy comes to you 2 days before and says you haven't got a quorum. You've got a hell of a lot of work between you to try and get people up in 2 days.
2 days, that would be great. It's been 2 or 3 minutes frequently. And I couldn't get anybody's attention when it was the dog control or the traffic or the hearings. But now that it's a different committee, everybody's interested.
I just wonder about the word emergency. Could it say unforeseen circumstances?
Yeah.
Because
agreed.
emergency implies that
Agreed.
it's,
Agreed.
but unforeseen circumstances is a much fairer way to, and it's about your call on that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah, that would capture most things. All right, are you guys happy with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
So Angela, you moved, I believe you moved
did.
and I seconded, right?
Yep.
All right, okay, let's go into debate. Sarah, by the way, I see you at home, I hope you're happy with those words and that would suit your situation. Let me just see if Sarah...
Yes, thank you everyone for crafting that. Looks
Oh,
great.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, gosh, really? Okay.
Once approving these standing orders, does the 2 minutes apply on the next item? Yes, awesome.
We've had a lot of debate. We've had a lot of debate by question this time, unfortunately. Okay, let's go. You're the mover.
Look, thanks, thanks, staff. Look, for me, standing orders, it's the framework that allows us all to safely be able to operate under the same principles. And that's really important, particularly being a new member around the table. I remember how terrified I was when you've got experienced people with all the knowledge and institutional awareness and knowledge of a large organisation, and you're a little bit terrified to put some things forward. So the standing orders levels that playing field. As long as we follow the rules and as long as the chair of the meeting implements those standing orders. Yeah, great. I think the best thing in here for me, well, there's two things. I was hoping for a 1.5-minute debate, but okay, I'm happy to go to the 2 minutes. But the 5 days, 5 working days, you know, I've pushed for a decade. We started off in 3 working days, and then we got to 4, and now we've got to 5 without too much effort. Really, really appreciate that. We need that time to digest information, to sit with it for a little while, to formulate, to come back before we make the most important decisions in this chamber. So I appreciate all of that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutt.
Thank you. I'll be brief, but I just really want to thank the Chamber and to thank staff for their work on this, but also the commitment to being accessible and to being empathetic and to being understanding, so that all of us who were elected into this position can participate to the best of our abilities. Often of late, I've said when people have asked, how's council? I've said, it's actually one of the most accessible places I've worked, which might be more of a commentary on previous places I've worked. But the attitude that elected members have brought today is I really want to thank you all for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, actually I won't be brief, I'll enjoy the 3 minutes. It's the last I'm going to have in quite a while. Speaking time first, I must confess, under other leadership, I would have been reluctant to agree to this. But I have to say, under Mayor Paula, I've never had an occasion where, even if we have reduced speaking time at the beginning of a meeting for efficiency, that you haven't listened or got a sense of the room and made exceptions and enabled us on certain issues to speak longer. So I'm endorsing this as a reflection more of your leadership and how you manage it, because I know if there's a real critical issue, you would be open to moving that around a bit. I hope some of the other chairs are as kind and as sincere. I'm sure they would be. So that's the first comment. Look, in regards to accessibility to this chamber, we have to be the most accessible, and we have to do everything we can to make this place accessible. And I look at the way over the last couple of years that elected members have joined meetings remotely, some on bicycles with headsets, baby in front, but they've been there and they've been participating. And I go home and go, this is just amazing and I love it. I may not agree, and I frequently do not agree with what they say and how they vote, but I love the fact that they're participating. So I don't mind if you're unwell, I don't mind whatever reason you're not able to be here physically. You choose to join, you have to be welcomed. And I think that's wonderful. So I was horrified to think that we were potentially going backwards, that we were going to make some requirement that we had to do certain hoops to be able to participate. That would be a backward step. So whether your camera's working or not, or whether you're just holding the phone and you're in the southern part of this country, if you're participating, you're doing what you were voted to do, and I want to encourage that. So I think this is workable, I think it's sensible, and I send a very quick message to our friends in Wellington in the last 29 seconds that I have. I think the decision to remove the fact that a member such as Sarah could not be counted in the physical quorum is nonsensical. If it suited the government for 2.5 years to have us operating that way, then it should suit the government now to have it operating that way. And these sorts of inconsistencies lead to the general public going, I don't understand some of the decisions coming from Wellington. Sorry.
It's all right, you were only 4 seconds over, so I think coffee is on you, but that's good. Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson and I frequently disagree, but in this occasion, I wholeheartedly endorse everything you just said. Last term, pre-COVID, I was advised by governance that there was no way to join meetings by video because we didn't have the technology set up. Then COVID came along, and within like 2 days, we suddenly were able to do it, although it was a little bit clunky. But it meant that, you know, I guess it meant that I was able to participate, whereas to have been able to get to the annual plan meeting, if circumstances had been different, I would have had to bring a 3-day-old baby into the chambers. So it really does make it more possible to participate. And I would say that in terms of regulating members being on Zoom or in chambers, my personal experience has been that I always prefer to be in the chambers if I can, and it makes the job easier and more enjoyable. So I don't expect that elected members would really take advantage, or, you know, I guess that we would have any issues with it either, because I think that actually most of us enjoy working in person when we can. In terms of debate time, I would just say I'm really glad to see the 2-minute debate, because these meetings can be really long, but I absolutely trust that when things are important and contentious, we can extend that. And usually our debate gets a lot worse by the end of the 3 minutes anyway, and we start to drag on. So we can all take a leaf out of Councillor Hamilton's book and keeping things succinct. Thanks.
Good job. You only had a minute left after 3 minutes. You'd have been perfect on 2. Brilliant. I'll make a few comments myself, just noting what you said, Sarah, about how unfriendly the environment was when you had your first child, and not disagreeing, but noting that that was a legal position at the time, as well as technology. But COVID has changed the working world. And, you know, I, like you, prefer to be in here by person. Why do I prefer to be in here by person? Well, I do like my colleagues generally. I like you all. There you go. Generally, I like you all. Don't like all of your behaviour all the time, but no, all your politics, but actually really enjoy the workplace and the team that we have, genuinely. And I'm one of those people who I would prefer to work with people where I can look you in the eye, where I can feel the vibe, where I can have a cup of coffee to sort things out, or whatever those kind of things that happen. I think the issues here, the critical issues here, are communication, which I mentioned in my little grumbling remarks before. If we communicate with governance, it's not about them knowing everything we ever do or where we are at all times in our life. We're self-employed. But if you communicate with governance as to your movements for those committees which you are expected to be on, that will help a great deal. If you support your colleagues when they reach out and say, well, look, you know, it's running a bit low, it's running a bit tight, support each other to get the work done so we don't have to reschedule. That would be excellent. I personally have been called into meetings 2 or 3 times this term already to be the quorum, and I consider, which is fine, I was happy to do it rather than have the meeting lapsed, but I am one of the busiest people in the building, so I was thinking, goodness, you know, ask a busy person to squeeze in something else. So this also, in our view, a code of conduct, standing orders, are just standing orders until we give effect to them. So this is about us being committed to supporting the standing orders and committed to doing the roles that we've taken on, and committed to telling governance when we're unable to do the roles that we've taken on, other than be on Zoom or be absent, because sometimes absence is just as much an issue as being on the screen. And look, Sarah, you know, I've said this before, I didn't know if you heard me. I was very grateful for you coming in last minute, flying in your butt, because you didn't really want me with my stomach bug coming in that day, and you did it, and your circumstances are quite challenging. So I appreciate that. So on that, thanks to staff for the great job. Thanks, team, for your great debate. We'll go to the vote. Oh, write a reply, Angela. Do you have one?
Oh, do I want to use another 3 minutes? No.
You would only get 2. Oh, look. Oh. All right, anyway, go to the vote. Thank you. Hey?
The motion is carried unanimously.
Now we have 2 minutes. Yes.
Hang on, I can't get my tab up. Oh, okay, so we're into item 12. Item 12, which is recommendations from open committee meetings. Can we go through these fairly quickly? First of all, we have the community meeting of the 16th of February. There's a couple of recommendations there. Do you want to move them, Councillor Naidoo-Rofe? Do you have a seconder, Anna? Anything you need to address? Anything people don't understand? No? Any debate?
Sorry, can I just question, we're still on online, I saw Helen here somewhere, yes, for getting, we were going to get an understanding of, correct me if I'm wrong, either Waikato Tainui or, someone submitted around the waste that's going into the awa. We still, that was coming to a briefing or workshop on this bylaw, remember, the crematorium waste?
Oh, is it
Remember
part of the
that?
crematorium bylaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be looking into that.
But it's still on a list somewhere to come to a briefing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Absolutely, yeah.
great.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Any debate? We'll go to the vote, please. Thank you.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Recommendations from the Finance Committee. Councillor Maxine, happy to move. Seconded. Moko. Thank you. Any comments you need to make? Any concerns from anyone else? Being none? Any debate? No? Go to the vote. Thank you. You liking that, Ryan? I'm trying to be really expedient. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, vote please. Oh. There you go.
The motion is carried unanimously.
That's it, isn't it? Hang on, last item is a resolution to exclude. Thank you. Councillor Ryan moves, Councillor Angela seconds. We're all in favour, aye. Let's chuck the myriad of millions of public out and go into our public excluded agenda.